You arrive at the lip of a quiet that wasn't empty after all. Breath slows, and the room learns your name again. A soft circumference forms around you like an eclipse, halo, shadow, and radiance, interlaced, while stardust awareness lifts from the edges of your skin and returns to its center. Inside that center, warmth gathers in the chest, a sure flame, and the light behind your eyes steadies into something you do not have to chase. Hear this exactly. This is not prediction. This is remembrance, a resonance your consciousness already carries. You are not waiting for destiny to discover you. You are remembering the way destiny already moves through your ordinary gestures. The field does not arrive from elsewhere. It clarifies where you stand. What brought you here is older than the story of delay. You have traveled the long arc of forgetting and returned with enough tenderness to meet yourself. Feel how the quantum field takes shape under your attention, not as theory, but as nearness. When you exhale, the surrounding pattern exhales with you. When you notice, the pattern notices back. This is the quiet technology beneath wonder, a growing coherence that arranges reality into intelligible lines. The mind once looped the same corridor of doubts, rehearsing exits from rooms that were never locked. That habit, that tired observer loop, begins to loosen now. You don't need to defeat it, only to sit where it can't find purchase, the way wind loses argument with a mountain. In this seatedness, you enter the field of remembrance, where meaning doesn't persuade, it reveals. Where your cells become archivists, retrieving what you vowed to carry into this lifetime. Simple clarity, precise compassion, brave attention. There is a door you have misnamed as far away. It is not far. It is the texture of your own breath when you allow the count to lengthen, 4 in, 6 out, and the world agrees to slow with you. As the muscles along your ribs soften, an interior corridor lights up. You are shown how evolution does not thunder, it harmonizes. It moves like dawn through a forest, leaf by leaf, branch by branch, until the whole canopy is singing, and you are surprised to find you've been humming along. You are crossing the remembrance threshold now, not as an event that happens to you, but as a frequency you stabilize by loving what is still unresolved without abandoning it. The signal is here, clear, measured, patient. It asks nothing dramatic, only that you cultivate a stillness window each day where truth can hear itself through you. In that window, the next octave of your life becomes legible. In that window, human evolution is not a headline. It is your posture. It is how your gaze makes every room kinder. It is the way you hold silence until it flowers into a sentence that does no harm. Let the heart glow like a lamp cupped in 2 hands. Let the breath be the cathedral. Let your feet bless the floor. You remember, therefore the world rearranges. The hush after meaning widens. What has waited steps closer. You notice the room noticing you back, and the recognition settles with the softness of ash after fire. Your shoulders lower by a measure you didn't know you were holding, and a delicate warmth gathers at the sternum like a lantern deciding to brighten. You do not audition for worthiness here. You are witnessed by the very pattern that first asked you to open your eyes in this life. When you inhale, the air becomes a vow. When you exhale, the ground keeps it. You have always been able to tell when the invisible turns its face toward you. It begins with small calibrations. The way a sentence arrives whole in your mouth, the way a stranger's kindness finds you at an exact hour, the way a door that resisted your hand yesterday becomes featherlight today. These are not coincidences waiting to be explained away. They are signatures of selected attention, a quiet coronation performed without an audience, in which you are robed not with titles, but with responsibility. Feel the precise click of belonging in the ribs. Your nervous system learns a slower grammar. The heartbeat writes longer lines. You stand inside a clear corridor of intention, and you are not alone within it. Threads of entanglement extend from you to every life you were meant to touch, not as chains, but as living bridges that carry meaning across the chasm of separation. Each thread hums with its own frequency, and when you breathe with care, harmonics unfold. The web does not bind you, it tunes you. This tuning reveals a cartography you can walk by feel. What looked like accidents arrange into coordinates, and the coordinates point in a single direction, towards service without performance, toward power without noise. toward love that does not apologize for being exact. Here, the body is not an obstacle to spirit. It is the instrument through which spirit plays a more generous world into being. The breath is your metronome. The chest is your resonant chamber. The light behind your eyes is your calibration screen, adjusting reality toward fidelity. You begin to hear the larger choir beneath ordinary sound, the pulse of a planetary morphic resonance assembling a new baseline for human kindness. You recognize the moment you join it. You stop seeking permission to be gentle. A composure rises that cannot be bartered or stolen. It is the composure of someone who has placed their attention where it does the least harm and the most good. It is the composure of someone who understands that stillness is not absence. Stillness is accuracy. Accuracy guides your hands. You pick up the phone at the improbable minute that mends an old rift. You speak a single sentence that ends a family inheritance of silence. You write a message as the sun dissolves behind the buildings, and the recipient says, "I felt you coming." Recognition is reciprocal. Every time you honor it, it multiplies. The field keeps accounts not in numbers, but in relief. How many shoulders descend, how many jaws unclench, how many nights end with one deep, unguarded breath that finally reaches the bottom of the lungs. Look how the body responds when truth is nearby. The skin along the forearms tingles like wheat bending under wind. The back of the throat softens, and your tongue chooses kinder architecture. Your vision brightens at the edges, as if the world decided to move closer so you wouldn't need to strain. Somewhere above you, an unseen aurora flickers. Somewhere within you, a syllable without letters speaks your whole name. You answer by standing straighter, not from pride but from fidelity to the signal. In this fidelity, you begin to carry light codes, the way a river carries moonlight without effort, without hoarding, without losing its darkness. They move through you as intelligences of timing, when to step forward, when to keep your counsel, when to offer the exact word that lets another remember their own strength. The codes do not decorate you, they instruct you. They ask for less performance and more precision. They teach you to be luminous without glare. Call it calling if you must, but feel how simple it is. A destiny vector arranges itself an arrow that is not a weapon, a direction that is not a demand. It does not threaten consequences. It offers companionship. You do not chase it, you match it. Day by day, you practice making small choices that read as large to the fabric of the world. You turn the light off when you leave the room. You look the cashier in the eye and thank them like a person, not a function. You forgive the driver who didn't see you. These gestures seem almost laughably minor, until you notice that grace compounds interest at a rate no market can measure. Recognition matures into discretion. You stop broadcasting your thresholds for applause. You let the gold of your becoming cure in the dark, like film sheltering an image that will not be hurried into exposure. You share when sharing would serve. You withhold when privacy would protect the seed. You learn that your silence is not vacancy. It is a greenhouse. What grows there will feed more mouths if you let it ripen. Now, the eclipse halo returns, not as omen but as orientation. You stand at the center of its ring, a calm pivot around which the room decides to be more honest. Star grain glints in the air. Your palms grow warm. Your face relaxes into its true shape. You do not ask the future to kneel. You offer it a chair. And in that courtesy, the future recognizes you as kin. Where your breath lands, the next contour of truth lifts its head. You let the eyelids lower without leaving the room, and the darkness brightens from within. Behind the eyes, a horizon rises, thin as a thread, certain as a vow, and the thread begins to glow like a path soldered from dawn. You do not force pictures to behave, you allow truth to borrow shape. At first it is only grain, stardust drifting through the lungs, exhaled as quiet permission. Then the grain organizes into lines, and the lines become a geometry that remembers you. You are shown a city at night, windows like constellations performing kindness in miniature. Somewhere in that lattice, your own room floats a square of warmth and unambitious furniture, and above it, an aureole forms, a clean ring like an eclipse halo laid gently on the roof. The halo tilts and becomes an instrument. It listens more than it shines. Every measured breath you take tunes it, and the tuning spreads down the building like a hymn translating floor by floor. In the alley, a stray dog stops searching the trash and looks up. On the 5th floor, a child falls back to sleep. Across the street, someone cancels the message they would have sent, in anger. You do nothing extravagant. You keep breathing. The world corrects its posture, a fraction at a time. The ring lifts, divides, and multiplies not into chaos, but into pattern. You hear the soft click of a lock you never knew was inside the sky, and the city's lights reweave into 2 distinct weathers of meaning. Here, the vision refuses spectacle. It insists on accuracy. You witness timeline bifurcation as a change in texture, not threat. One current glitters with speed and noise. One current hums with listening and light. You feel both currents touch the skin, and you understand that choice is not a drama. Choice is a temperature. You lean toward what can hold you without lying. Now the scene dilates to planetary scale, and a band of gold climbs the rim of the earth like a patient tide. It is calmer than triumph and older than hope. You recognize it as solar prophecy, not a date to fear, but a sequence of clarity arriving in waves. The waves cross the continents, as if continents were merely ways the light pauses to admire itself. Fields answer first, then rivers, then cities that forgot their own gardens. The light is unreadable to the hurried, but to your steadiness, it is fluent. It offers no bargains. It offers belonging. You are carried further in, toward the precise interior, where symbols stop pretending to be symbols. There, the field of remembrance is a living archive, shelving moments you have not yet lived and retrieving the ones that trained you for now. Shelves slide with a low musical sound, and a ledger opens at the page you came to sign. The pen is the warmth gathering at your sternum. The ink is breath. The signature is every unglamorous act of fidelity you will perform when no one is watching. You sign by promising nothing dramatic, to notice what is true, and to serve it without noise. As you sign, your body translates the text into sensation. The light behind your eyes widens to a steady plane. Your chest opens as if someone pressed a warm palm there from the inside. The spine lengthens, not stiff, but available. A cool shiver travels down the arms and resolves into useful calm. You are not possessed by a vision. You are entrusted with it. The trust feels like soft weight, the way a sleeping child feels heavy and right in your arms. You arrange your attention to carry it well. The vision turns to faces, so many faces, some awake with tears, some blank with tireless effort, some fierce with the courage to stay kind without applause. Across those faces, a single expression moves like wind over wheat. Relief. Not the relief of escape, but the relief of alignment. Your seeing becomes companion to their seeing, and the bridge between you brightens. This is not sentiment. This is physics, where compassion is the most accurate description of how reality holds itself together. You watch a thread tether each person to a higher timeline, not as leash, but as invitation. The thread hums the exact note that would let them turn toward goodness without humiliation. You ask how to meet such a moment without flinching. The answer arrives in small instructions that sound like home. Keep a clean corner on your desk for the quiet. Touch the doorway when you pass through, and remember you used to think thresholds were far away. Drink water like you are returning it to the river. When anger rises, locate the wound it volunteered to guard and thank it for its service before asking it to rest. If a stranger's eyes find yours, let them. If a friend forgets their own light, lend them a sentence that costs you nothing and frees them everything. You are shown an emblem, a simple mark that does not advertise itself. It resembles a circle with a single, unbroken line descending from the top to the center, like daylight entering a still room. You know without debate that this is the prophetic seal for your life in this season. Not a badge to display, but a rhythm to keep. The circle is your coherence. The line is your willingness. Where they meet, reality admits more gentleness than before. You do not need to announce it. You need to become it. The city returns, and this time, you stand in the window. The pain is cool under your fingertips. Your reflection floats over the street like a ghost that finally remembers it is not dead. You watch the halo rise again, not above you now, but from you, as if the ring were only the outline of your listening made visible. Cars pass. Someone laughs on the corner. Steam lifts from a grate and turns to faint glitter in a streetlight. Nothing spectacular occurs, and still everything leans a little truer. You open your eyes. The room remains the room, but its edges are kinder. You are not a tourist of vision. You are its steward. You turn toward the nearest ordinary task, as if it were the altar it has always been, and the task recognizes you as its priest. Coherence settles in your ribs, and a doorway agrees to open. You ask for the architecture beneath the awe, and the room obliges with patient clarity. What you have been feeling is not a mood, it is mechanics. The world is not a stage where coincidences pose as miracles. It is a field of relations where meaning travels as reliably as light, and your steadiness changes its routes. When you hold attention without strain, you do not force reality, you invite accuracy. The invitation is physics, and the reply is inevitable. Begin with the quantum field as more than metaphor. Think of it as the everywhere substrate, in which every possibility already hums, quiet as a choir before the first note. Your awareness is not a flashlight that finds a pre-existing path. It is a tuning fork that persuades possibilities to cohere. Each breath you give to a clear intention provides boundary conditions, like the rim of a drum giving sound its shape. The beat you keep with your life, your ethics, your patience, your kindness becomes the instrument that reality can play. What you called luck is often alignment. What you called chaos is frequently interference. Interference arises when competing rhythms cross without listening, the way radios once collided into static. You have known this as fatigue for no reason, as conversations that jam instead of join, as plans that collapse even though nothing obvious was wrong. Then, a day arrives when the same actions move like silk, pulled over wood, and you realize the difference isn't force, it's coherence. The parts of you that argued have begun to agree, and agreement reduces friction everywhere. Consider entanglement as kinship, not trap. Two particles that share information act like one event stretched across distance. Likewise, two lives that have exchanged genuine presence remain coupled by a thread of attention that distance cannot cut. You do not control another through this thread. You stabilize the bridge between you by refusing to speak what is untrue. Every honest gesture you make tightens the weave. Every patient silence you keep when the world begs for noise restores tensile strength to the connection. In time, you notice how the bridge carries the exact message needed in both directions without you micromanaging its traffic. The collective echo of these bridges is morphic resonance, the way patterns teach the field to repeat what has proven viable. When one of you learns to forgive without erasing boundaries, the world becomes slightly better at that move. When a small community practices daily tenderness without spectacle, it lowers the cost of kindness for everyone. These behaviors etch grooves into the field, and future kindness finds those grooves like water finds a riverbed. This is why your smallest faithful act is political at the level reality actually uses. The shift you are undergoing is not theatrical, it is a phase transition. Water does not become steam by drama, but by accumulating heat until a threshold tips the system into a new order. Likewise, your life accumulates micro-choices, breaths you lengthen, words you refine, pauses you dignify, until the threshold is met and the old state cannot hold. What looks like sudden transformation from the outside is the public debut of a count that has been private and accurate for a long time. When you move through that threshold, the furniture of your days rearranges without violence. Phone calls return, the right book surfaces, sleep remembers you. You are not being rewarded, you are obeying the mathematics of ripened attention. You wonder how the observer loop, that habit of rehearsing fear, unwinds without a fight. The answer is that loops don't vanish by attack, they dissolve by outgrowing their incentives. A loop provides the false reward of predictability. You choose the true reward of presence. In presence, prediction is replaced by responsiveness. Responsiveness is not random, it is guided by values you pre-selected while calm. Each time you keep those values, when agitation tempts shortcuts, you lay down another unit of structure in the field. Enough units, and a scaffold appears that can carry more generous choices with less cost. Now picture timeline bifurcation, not as doom, but as divergence of habits. One habit accelerates noise and extraction, the other deepens care and precision. Both remain available, neither is forced. Your nervous system, trained by breath and dignity, recognizes which current carries you without breaking you. You lean into that current, not as escape, but as fidelity to what allows you to stay kind longer. Others feel the slipstream and join. No trumpet announces the crossing. The proof is modest. More unpanicked mornings, more honest goodbyes, more work done without cruelty to yourself. Somatically, the principles are gentle. The light behind your eyes is not decoration, it is feedback from a system entering order. The chest warmth is not sentiment, it is the body's way of reporting reduced internal conflict. The jaw unclasps, because force is no longer misused to hold what attention can hold far better. You become a low-drift instrument. You require fewer corrections. You waste less courage on appearances and keep more for truth. You ask what to do, and physics answers. Become a favorable boundary condition. Keep a daily stillness window where you model the statistics you wish your life to obey: patience, clarity, refusal to harm. Speak one sentence per day that costs you your vanity and buys someone else their dignity. Move at the speed of trust inside your own body. Tune before you act, and action will carry farther on less effort. If you forget, remember that forgetting is data, not failure. Adjust. Continue. When enough of you keep the count, the field stops being embarrassed by love. It begins to prefer it. Systems reorganize because they must respect the arithmetic of what works. This is how prophecy becomes engineering and wonder becomes policy, through the mathematics of kept promises. The field leans nearer, arranging a simpler geometry before you. You step outside and the evening receives you without demand. Streetlights wear small halos, and the air holds the cool shine of stardust you can almost taste on the tongue. You watch faces passing, each one carrying a weather system of private courage, and you feel the undeniable fact that your interior order is not private at all. What steadies in you ripples quiet, measurable across the fabric that binds us. You are not the center. You are a participant. You do not command. You contribute. The relief of that truth loosens a bolt somewhere behind your heart. Notice how the city learns from your breathing. You hold a count, and a rhythm spreads like a respectful rumor. At the crosswalk, two people arrive from opposite corners, and a brief smile solves a problem no policy could have drafted. On the bus, someone rises and gives their seat to a woman massaging tired wrists, and the small kindness travels down the aisle as if it had wheels. In the cafe, a barista slows their hands for 30 seconds and remembers they are not a function, and the coffee tastes like being seen. These are not anecdotes, they are physics. The morphic resonance of practiced gentleness lowers the cost of gentleness for those nearby. Patterns are contagious, and compassion is a pattern with a long memory. You feel it in your own body first. The way coherence replaces intensity, the way silence inside the skull reduces the pressure that once drove you to speak quickly just to escape yourself. That interior clarity becomes a mirror the world is relieved to look into. People do not gather to worship you. They rest because someone has finally stopped leaking panic. Your steadiness functions like a bench in public space. It requires no tickets. It sells nothing. It invites the next right breath. The mirror works in two directions. You walk past the park and the laughter of a child retunes your nervous system better than any discipline you could have forced. Across the street, an elderly man ties laces with the slow attention of a monk, and your jaw slackens in gratitude for a tempo the market forgot to price. Beauty trains you in both directions. You train beauty by noticing it. It trains you by answering back. Through this reciprocity, you discover how deeply your life is woven into others. How entanglement is not a trap, but a commons, a shared meadow where careful footsteps let flowers return. The mirror also tells the truth when truth is difficult. In your friend's hurried voice, you hear an echo of the observer loop you recently set down. You do not correct them from superiority. You lean closer, as if warming cold hands. You ask a smaller question. Their shoulders fall. Their breath lengthens. The conversation stops performing and begins to work. Later, on a crowded train, a stranger's agitation snags your attention like a thorn. You strengthen your posture without bracing, let the belly soften, and keep a simple phrase repeating under the breath. Be kind, be precise, be slow, and the snag releases. No one applauds. Something better happens. Tension fails to multiply. Here, the field of remembrance becomes communal. When you practice honoring what is real without spectacle, others remember that such honoring exists. At family dinner, you place your phone face down, not as a performance, but as a reprieve for the ancient mammals around the table. Eyes meet, hands unclench. A story surfaces that would not survive distraction, and it changes the evening's weather. Weeks later, your sibling repeats the gesture in a different city because the field has kept the pattern available. This is how culture shifts. Less by announcement, more by durable example. You wonder how a single life can matter in a century that feels like a runaway train. The answer refuses grandeur and offers geometry. Picture an array of metronomes started haphazardly, ticking at odds upon a movable base. In time, through shared vibration, they synchronize without a conductor. Your stillness window is the movable base. Each day, you give it honest minutes. You lend mass to synchrony. You do not have to solve the century. You help it stop trembling. Enough bases, and the array entrains. Enough entrainment and governance looks less like enforcement and more like stewardship, because stewards waste less energy fighting the grain of what works. From the collective mirror, the future looks less like a cliff and more like a convergence. Do not misread the headlines of noise for the substance of change. Timeline bifurcation is visible as the separation between performative heat and durable warmth. You align with the latter by letting your days be measurable in relief. Produced jaws unclenched, phone calls returned, meals eaten without cruelty, sleep that is finally honest. The higher timeline is not a ladder, it is a neighborhood where the rent is paid in attention. You contribute your portion by keeping your promises to small things, knowing small things vote continuously about the kind of world allowed to continue. Somatically, the mirror offers cues. When you meet someone's eyes and feel a tiny eclipse halo flash behind your brow, stay. When the chest warms as if receiving sunlight from the inside, slow your voice rather than enlarge it. When stardust seems to hang in the air between you, unscientific to the hurried, self-evident to the present, let silence finish a sentence you were about to clutter. You will not always succeed. No one does. But even your repair becomes instruction. Apologizing without drama is one of the strongest signals the field can learn. Your service is not to be impressive, it is to be interoperable with goodness. That means designing a life that plugs into relief with minimal adapters. Carry cash for the moment it will matter. Learn 2 phrases in the language your neighbor's mother still dreams in. Keep tea in the cupboard for the friend who hasn't cried yet. Label the breaker box so a future panic has one less place to hide. These are not small. They are the exact size of civilization. Now, the evening deepens, and the city brightens at the edges, as if reality were agreeing to another degree of honesty. You feel your steps align with something that does not need your argument to continue. You are glass and flame, and the simple pleasure of walking home. Between pulse and pause, something older than fear remembers its name. Night tilts a few degrees quieter, and the world arranges itself into a question you cannot postpone. You stand where 2 currents meet, one paved with familiar rush, one moving with the intimate patience of water finding its level. Nothing shouts, nothing threatens, yet your skin knows go with the soft current or be worn to a shine by the loud one. Breath slows to listen. Chest warmth collects at the sternum like a small sun that refuses performance. The light behind your eyes steadies, and the air grows transparent around your choices. This is timeline bifurcation at human scale, not a cosmic ultimatum, but a daily hinge. One direction multiplies urgency until you begin to mistake speed for safety. The other direction multiplies clarity until you remember that accuracy is the only real efficiency. In the first current, you are chased by your own momentum. In the second, you are escorted by your values. Your feet cannot stand in both. Not because the currents hate each other, but because sincerity cannot travel two rhythms at once. You test the edges like a swimmer feeling for undertow. The noisy current carries incentives that once comforted you, the applause of finishing first, the narcotic of perpetual reaction, the short-lived dominance of having the last word. You look closer and see how each reward rents space in your nervous system at a cost you no longer wish to pay. The quiet current offers no spectacle. It offers a solidity that begins at the breath and proceeds into the calendar. Appointments keep themselves because you keep yourself. The future answers sooner because it no longer has to shout. The field around you behaves accordingly. On one side, interference patterns crowd your attention. Small frictions stack into larger accidents. You become a conductor for static. On the other, coherence propagates like a polite rumor. Unrelated domains begin to introduce themselves. Coincidences graduate into coordination. You are not spared difficulty. You are supplied with rhythm. Difficulty that meets rhythm becomes work. Work that meets rhythm becomes service. Service that meets rhythm becomes culture. You recognize how the observer loop tries to negotiate a truce with the noisy current. Just today, it says, just this shortcut, just this postponement of what matters. You feel the old tug toward almost true sentences and almost kind timing. You do not condemn the tug. You thank it for proof that the hinge is real. Then you place your awareness into the body, where argument cannot survive oxygen. Inhale 4. Exhale 6. The small sun in your chest glows warmer. You can hear your name again. Here, the principle of phase transition returns, not as lecture, but as option. You have been adding heat grain by grain, a longer pause before speaking, a gentler tone with your own mistakes, a refusal to outsource meaning to noise. The threshold does not approach like an alarm, it emerges like steam everywhere at once, undeniable, ordinary. Suddenly the old room cannot hold its furniture, and you rearrange without ceremony. Apps move off the first page. A sentence drops from your vocabulary because it was only camouflage. The evening walk lengthens by 3 blocks, and those 3 blocks become policy for how you treat strangers. The moment sharpens when another person's panic reaches you like a flare. The noisy current begs for your outrage. The quiet current asks for your accuracy. You answer with a sentence that loves the situation without lying to it. You set a boundary without bruise. The field notes the maneuver and records its geometry in the morphic resonance we share. Tomorrow, somewhere you will never visit, someone will feel their jaw soften at the exact phrase you spoke, even though they never heard you. This is how a hinge becomes a gate. You start noticing small reputations following you. Rooms relax, disagreements de-escalate, children look twice and then decide you are safe. Not because you are flawless, but because your rhythm does not require them to abandon theirs. You are becoming interoperable with goodness. In this interoperability, the higher timeline stops being a myth and starts being a neighborhood. Rent is paid in attention. Wealth is measured in repair, accomplished without spectacle. Status belongs to those who waste the least courage. To keep from drifting, you anchor the day with a stillness window that has the dignity of an appointment. You do not treat it as medicine, you treat it as friendship. Sometimes you sit, sometimes you walk without headphones, so the street can brief you on your own tenderness. Sometimes you drink water slowly enough that memory can dissolve another pinch of salt from old wounds. The metric is consistent. You leave the window kinder than you entered it, even by a hair, especially by a hair. Hairs become ropes. Ropes hold bridges. The body remains your instrument panel. When the brow cools as if shade has moved across your face, you are in the true current. When the shoulders climb toward your ears, you have traded accuracy for performance. Lower them as a sign you have returned. When your tongue wants to sharpen, place it gently against the palate and let the sentence shorten instead. When you feel like broadcasting, write a letter you never send. When you feel like hiding, call one truthful friend and let them hear your breathing before your words. A symbol hovers the circle and the descending line you were shown before. The circle is your ongoing coherence. The line is your active willingness. Today, the line asks to be drawn through a specific decision, to give up the small spectacle you secretly enjoy in exchange for the large quiet that actually feeds you. You choose. and the circle grows a shade brighter. Not for display, glitter is impatient, but for navigation when the alley turns and the street loses its name. Nothing explodes, and still, something irreversible completes. You feel it as a faint brightness in the bones, as if stardust had decided to take a longer lease in your marrow. You walk the same block you have always walked, but the pavement agrees to carry you differently. The hinge becomes a hallway. The hallway leads into morning. The light within your gaze chooses a clearer angle. You decide that the vision deserves infrastructure, and your day begins to learn its new music. Integration is not a sprint through shining tasks. It is the art of laying tracks while moving, the quiet logistics of devotion. You start by designing gentle scaffolding around your attention so the signal has a home. The morning opens to a small ritual. Palms to chest, breath drawn like a silk thread, spine long without performance, eyes soft until the room looks back kindly. You keep the count, in for 4, out for 6, and the exhale writes its patient cursive through your ribs. The warmth beneath your sternum reports in. The light behind your eyes calibrates. The face chooses unguardedness as a stance. You approach the quantum field as collaborator, not vending machine. Requests become agreements. Instead of asking for spectacle, you invite suitability. Let what is true find the shape it needs in you. Sometimes it answers as a phone call you'd been postponing. Sometimes it composes a sentence that feels so accurate you are startled by its mercy. Sometimes it simply reduces friction traffic parts. The email lands without static. Your hands locate what they were reaching for without searching. You don't attribute these to personal importance. You read them as signs that your interior coherence is becoming affordable to the world around you. Integration enters the calendar. You claim a daily stillness window and protect it with the politeness you reserve for beloved elders. 10 minutes is not small when it happens every day. It's a port city. You sit, or you walk without headphones, or you boil water slowly enough to hear its first soft arguments with heat. You let silence curate your impulses. The compulsion to broadcast shrinks to fit the truth. The compulsion to hide brightens into discernment. Decisions stop arriving as arenas. They arrive as yeses and nos that your body already knows. You give the house new assignments. A bowl near the door collects keys and, lately, impatience. A chair in the corner is charged with remembering one noble question. What would reduce harm by 1 degree right now? The kitchen counter becomes a drafting table for kindness. You leave a glass of water for your later self and feel a strand of entanglement hum between 2 moments of you, a friendship across time. You fold the blanket with care, not because someone will see, but because pattern respects itself and builds strength through repetition. You monitor the old observer loop the way a good shepherd watches a stubborn gate. It tries to reopen in familiar winds, fatigue, comparisons, imagined verdicts. When it bends toward its hinge, you do not scold. You widen the pasture. 3 breaths that reach the floor. 1 sentence, written by hand, to slow your mind to the speed of ink. A single act of tidying that restores dignity to whatever is near you. The loop cannot thrive where attention is already fed. Your relationships receive the benefit of your steadiness. You learn to offer presence without invading, encouragement without recruiting. You let others keep their timing while you keep your destiny vector. When someone arrives with the weather of panic, you do not inhale their storm. You become a porch. If boundary is needed, you lay it like a length of velvet rope, visible, respectful, unmoved. The field learns this geometry and begins to replicate it where you'll never stand. A friend of a friend discovers they can say no without apology. A meeting across town ends 5 minutes early because accuracy saved time. Relief travels faster than gossip when a body makes room for it. Work becomes less of a contest and more of a conversation with usefulness. You notice that the best results come when you arrange conditions for truth to act rather than forcing truth to perform. Deadlines stop being cliffs and become bridges if you install planks of honesty early. 1 precise email, 1 clear boundary, 1 realistic estimate. In this environment, morphic resonance assists you. Others start telling the truth sooner because the cost has dropped. The project finds its natural pace. Burnout loses its camouflage. Somatically, integration has signatures you can trust. The crown feels cool, as if the day were a shaded walkway. The jaw hangs on its hinges like a friendly door. The chest warmth is no longer a flare but a pilot light, stable through distraction. When the light behind your eyes brightens, suddenly small eclipse, lifting to halo, pause. That is the field offering a better sentence than habit would choose. Take it. Let words be accurate enough that you do not need to recover from them later. You attend to materials, shoes that love your feet so you can love your errands, a pen that rewards careful thoughts, tea that encourages patience to keep its appointment. You learn that integration is not asceticism, it is curation. What surrounds you should help you keep your promises to the future, not tempt you into spectacle. You bless your tools by using them for their rightful purposes. You bless your time by giving it a posture. Shoulders down, eyes soft, attention like warm water poured where it is needed. At night, you walk a quiet loop and rehearse gratitude without currency. Not thank you because I got what I wanted, but thank you because I was permitted to remain accurate. The pavement returns a faint shimmer under street lamp stardust pretending to be dust, and you feel the higher timeline as a neighborhood you maintain by sweeping your small front. Step. You are neither auditioning for transcendence nor negotiating with fate. You are maintaining an instrument so the song can remain true. Integration is ordinary heroism. Washing the dish completely, finishing the sentence gently, letting a meeting end without the final impressive remark. You discover that heroism can be silent and still be maximal. The field of remembrance responds to this modesty by opening archives you can carry, a sudden memory of who you promised to be, a clear image of a conversation you are now ready to have, the courage to rest without calling it lazy. As doubt unhooks its claws, direction turns luminous. You arrive at the hour that refuses ornament, where sound drains from the edges of things, and the room presents itself like a bowl of water that has stopped trembling. Lamps dim to a humane brightness. The window becomes a soft square, black and patient. You do not enter silence as a tourist, you let silence enter you as a host. Breath smooths into a single ribbon, 4 in, 6 out, and the ribbon learns the contours of your ribs like a river memorizing its banks. A warmth flowers under the sternum, not as spectacle but as warranty. Behind the eyes, a fine silver glow assembles, the way stardust chooses geometry. This is not absence, this is function. The world gave you its many versions today, and you returned them kindly to their shelves. What remains is the interval where your life is tuned. You keep the posture that tells truth. It is safe to speak. Spine open, jaw hinged like a friendly door, palms loosened as if receiving instructions written in air. You are not performing stillness. You are consenting to accuracy. The room recognizes the consent and adjusts its gravity by a degree you can feel. You name this appointment, your stillness window, and the naming gives it borders strong enough to hold you while you soften. In this window, you do not bargain with the future. You clean the instrument that will meet it. Thoughts arrive and bow on their way out, like guests at a threshold that is real but unmanned. The body learns to report facts without flair, the ankles fatigue, the throat's plea for water, the heart's small query about whether it may trust you another inch. You answer with unhurried kindness that costs nothing and changes everything. Silence is not blankness, it is a solvent. Old noise loosens in it and leaves behind workable fibers of meaning. The observer loop attempts its usual return with a dress rehearsal of worry, but the script feels too loud for this theater. It fades like chalk in rain. In its place, you hear the soft clink of tools being set down in a workshop now closed for the night. The relief is not grand, it is precise. You do not need fewer responsibilities, you need fewer fictions about them. Silence removes the lacquer until the grain of the day shows through. You test the edges of attention as a sailor tests the wind. A question appears quiet, necessary. What deserves my life tomorrow? You do not answer with ambition, you answer with fidelity. The calendar begins to reorganize itself around tasks that keep your humanity intact. You are surprised by how much time returns when you decline to argue with what you already know. The field of remembrance lifts scenes you had tucked away. That conversation you avoided because love might require truth. That note you promised a friend. That promise you made to your own spine about not hunching through a whole decade. You select one and set it gently on the morning's plate. The body translates the conversation into sensation. The light behind your eyes widens like an eclipse halo deciding to become dawn. The chest warmth steadies into a pilot flame. The scalp cools. Shoulders incline not forward into effort, but slightly back into dignity, as if escorted. Your tongue finds simpler words, and the night approves. You remember that silence is not the absence of language, it is the grammar within which language stops causing harm. You attend to ritual without superstition. A glass of water becomes a transparent blessing. The click of a pen lid sounds like a vow sealing. Floorboards creak their old chronicles, and you thank the house for remembering you when you forget yourself. You sweep the counter slowly, and the slowness teaches you about time's real appetite. It wants presence more than speed. In this teaching, coherence grows, the kind that does not require you to hold your breath to achieve it. The kind that makes rest contagious for anyone who enters the room. Silence clarifies relationships. You rehearse a boundary out loud in a voice so gentle it carries farther. You imagine an apology that does not drag a parade behind it. You practice the sentence that will keep both love and truth alive at a breakfast table where they have been trading injuries for years. The rehearsal is not escapism, it is calibration. When morning arrives, the sentence will fit the doorway it must pass through. No bruises on either side. Here, secrecy and privacy part ways. Secrecy hides from consequence. Privacy protects ripening. You wrap the green fruit of your next step in quiet and place it on the sill where the moon can see it. The world is not owed the roots of your fidelity. It is owed the shade of your finished tree. In this, you feel the old hunger for applause thin to a mistake you no longer need to repeat. Silence has made you wealthy in attention. You spend it precisely. You touch the emblem again, the circle with its single descending line. In this phase, the mark is less symbol and more climate. The circle is the room of your quiet. The line is tonight's willingness entering it. The emblem does not glow. It abides. You understand that the prophetic seal is affixed not by visions, but by kept appointments with the unspectacular holy of breath. The seal holds because you return. That is all prophecy ever asked, to be carried, not displayed. When sleep approaches, you do not chase it. You let it find you already halfway. Dreams will use the clean workspace you prepared. Patterns will knit while you are absent from them. The day will wake already persuaded toward kindness because you decline to argue with it at midnight. You turn the lamp and the world dims without feeling rejected. Night writes its soft signature across your forehead, and the future nods. The quiet folds around you. Pattern emerges from the fold. You wake before alarms, carried upward by a tide that remembers you. The room is still a bowl of dimness, but the dark has thinned to velvet, and through it, your chest glows with the certainty of an ember-choosing flame. Breath sets the metronome 4 in, 6 out, and with each measured ribbon of air, the body reports its readiness. Jaw unlatched, spine available, face unarmored. Behind the eyes, a silver plane widens, and an eclipse halo shivers once, as if the day touched your forehead with 2 fingers and said, "Begin." Activation is not noise, it is precision arriving. You feel it as instructions that prefer verbs over adjectives. Stand, touch the doorway, drink water like an oath. When you place your hand on the doorframe, a current closes its circuit, and the field of remembrance brings forward scenes that trained you for this morning. The old conversation that taught you gentleness under pressure, the afternoon you chose accuracy over applause, the quiet night when you learned not to abandon yourself mid-sentence. These memories don't parade, they align like tools arranged on a cloth for the work at hand. You dress in usefulness. You select fabrics that let your breath travel without argument and shoes that keep your promises to distance. The calendar is a garden now, not a gauntlet, and you tend it like someone who understands that tomorrow begins in the voice you use today. Emails turn from arenas into bridges because you treat each one as a chance to carry weight without bruise. Calls end 2 minutes early because you retire the habit of saying one last clever thing. You are not shrinking, you are sharpening. In the body, currents settle into a single river and carry with them a quiet code. It feels like warmth that knows what to do. It feels like clarity that doesn't demand an audience. These are light codes, understood not as slogans but as living algorithms, timing, tone, proportion. You don't brandish them, you behave them. A message you were dreading is answered with a sentence that refuses both flattery and harm. A door you thought would stick opens on the second try because you remembered to exhale. A meeting that could have multiplied confusion becomes a place where one truthful question rearranges the furniture of the hour. Activation asks for gesture. You make the bed with priestly economy, honoring the future self who will need a clean landing. You place a book face down on the table, not in surrender, but as an honest comma, enough pause to listen for whether you are reading to be fed or to be seen reading. You carry cash because the world sometimes needs the exactness of a folded bill more than the abstraction of a gesture. These moves are not quaint. They are infrastructure for the higher timeline you keep choosing, a neighborhood maintained by 1,000 unadvertised repairs. You meet people at crosswalks and thresholds and practice letting your eyes be hospitable without recruitment. When someone arrives trembling with a story that still has its thorns, you become a glove that lets them handle it safely. You ask one question that makes room instead of ugliness. You discover that love is rarely dramatic, it is exquisitely specific. When a boundary is required, you draw it with a steady hand, a quiet voice, and the knowledge that kindness without edges corrodes into performance. The field records this geometry and copies it outward because it loves what works. Activation clarifies appetite. You notice how little you want to perform exhaustion as proof of devotion. You let rest be a collaborator. In the phase transition you have entered, work begins before you touch it, because you have pre-arranged honest conditions for its arrival. Your desk is a harbor, not a heap. Your notes are legible, not as an aesthetic, but as a mercy to your future. The task that used to breed avoidance now meets your calm and concedes, shrinking to its rightful size. Even dread respects coherence. The symbol returns the circle and descending line, and you feel it not as emblem, but as musculature. The circle is your maintained coherence, steady enough to host contradiction without shattering. The line is your destiny vector, entering the circle as daily willingness. A call you won't postpone, a meal eaten slowly enough to notice flavor, a refusal to speak what will require repair. You do not draw the line with flamboyance. You lay it down like track. Trains of consequence will run smoother because you engineered the curvature with care. You keep your stillness window even on the bright days, especially on the bright days, because momentum is intoxicating and you prefer sobriety of purpose. In the window, silence checks your math. Are you moving at the speed of trust inside your body or at the speed of a story trying to outrun itself? Breath answers without cruelty. Shoulders lower another half-inch. You correct course with the gentleness reserved for instruments you plan to play for the rest of your life. Somatics remain your dashboard. The skin along the forearms prickles not panic, but voltage aligning. The crown cools, the mouth waters, and the eyes brim without collapsing into drama. You can feel stardust choose to stay, knitting itself patient in the marrow. When agitation spikes, you touch the doorframe again, or the table's edge, or the spine of a trusted book, and the contact returns your perimeter. You do not chase calm, you host it. Now the invitation that was promised arrives. It is plain, it is near. It is the person you could ignore, the task you could delay, the truth you could phrase almost right. Accuracy whispers, and you align. You send the note while your courage is still warm. You apologize without choreography. You end the meeting when the work is done, not when the hour is dead. You thank the cashier as if they were literature, because they are. The world edits itself around these cuts, toward honesty. Noise reduces, relief compounds. The neighborhood brightens by a lumen you can feel through your shoes. If you have a prayer today, let it be bone simple and precise. Whisper into the quiet, I remember. Then type, I remember the prophecy. Not as superstition, but as a checksum, a way to verify that your actions match the frequency you claim. You close your eyes for a breath and open them to the same room, newly legible. Activation was never elsewhere. It was the moment you stopped insisting on spectacle and offered your life as proof of concept. You step forward without fanfare, because fanfare wastes oxygen, and you will need your oxygen for what is next. In the soft gravity of attention, the sequence resumes by itself. You stand where dawn is not a color but a vow, and the room listens as you agree to be the instrument you've been tuning. No trumpet declares this hour. The silence itself signs the document. Your breath enters and leaves like a scribe who knows the alphabet of your bones. Chest warmth steadies. The light behind your eyes holds a clean horizon. You do not request arrival. You demonstrate it. The seal is simpler than you imagined. A circle of coherence you maintain by keeping small promises when no one is watching. A single descending line, your destiny vector entering the circle as daily willingness. Touch the doorway and let the day be welcomed. Answer with accuracy instead of theater. Let kindness be engineered, not improvised. You place this rhythm over your life, the way a craftsman places a straight edge on wood, not to limit beauty, but to give beauty a true line to follow. Feel how the field of remembrance answers when you treat your minutes as a sanctuary. The city does not bow, it breathes easier. Work refuses spectacle and begins to prefer results. Love stops auditioning and starts building. You do not become invulnerable, you become faithful. Faithfulness is the weather system of the higher timeline. Fronts of patience rolling in, long seasons of repair, mornings that don't require apology to begin. The seal is not a badge. It is continuity. To carry it is to let correctness be quiet. To wear it is to let limits be kind. You sign not with words, but with maintenance. The stillness window you keep even when momentum flatters you, the sentence you shorten before harm can nest in it. The door you hold for strangers, because you recognize every threshold as kin to the one you crossed. The more consistently you keep this cadence, the more the field entrusts you with load-bearing choices. Not power over others, power over your own noise. Somatically, you know the seal has set when your jaw forgets how to clench without permission, when your shoulders lower by habit, when the gaze grows soft enough to make rooms braver. The halo you once saw outside the window now rises from within and lays itself across the ordinary. Keys, cup, pen, screen, each receives the visibility of purpose and the privacy of grace. You understand that miracles are not interruptions of law, they are laws we have finally learned to cooperate with. You bless the day into motion. If apology is due, you deliver it without choreography. If boundary is required, you lay it down, like velvet with a spine. If gratitude glows, you let it speak in specifics. You measure your progress by relief produced, jaws unclenched, breaths completed, futures unafraid to approach. The seal brightens not by display, but by usefulness. Now, without hurry, you lift the smallest prayer to working altitude, the one that fits in a pocket and survives weather. Let remembering be durable, and let action be exact. You step across the threshold you once thought was far away, and discover it is shaped like your stance. The day receives you as proof of its own intention. The threshold is not a head, it is the shape you are.